with Amanda.
Hello. I see some familiar names. That's always fun for me. Welcome. I appreciate everyone coming. I know a couple of our districts have late starts. So some of you that are here are really, I really appreciate it because I know it might have been a tough morning. So I'm super excited about this talk in particular. Tweens is an area of interest of mine. It's kind of like my little passion project because I think it is such a interesting time in development that we often overlook. It's kind of like we worry about the elementary years and are they academically where they should be, and are they making friends, and are they okay? And then we kind of flip into worrying about the teen stuff. Puberty, mean girls, are their academics in line with what they should be, and drug, sex, and rock and roll. And we kind of overlook these 9 to 12-year-olds. So today we're going to kind of park in this place and talk about how we can support them in our parenting and what we'll notice as they go through this short period. If you have questions along the way, feel free to ask. You can either put them in the chat and Stacy will bring them into the discussion, or you can unmute, or you can wait till the end and we'll get them there. So before COVID, I did some tween pop-up group series in Darien where we had, you can see all our partners at the bottom, each hosted 3 sessions where we invited tweens 9 to 12 to come in and we did some social emotional development. And fun group, a little hyper, and we learned a ton. And so what I'm talking to you today about draws from the experience I had with the kids in the groups, and also from what the research is telling us on family systems, emotional connection, and the neuroscience field. So the first thing, excuse me, I've always got to move this picture back. Okay. So there's 3 things that happen in the tween years that blow us away as parents and really shake our tweens. We don't always see it coming. Puberty seems to have more of a phase transition, a smooth transition, whereas these tween years, this neural change actually seems to hit us quickly. And so there's 3 things that are happening. Number 1, there's a massive reorganization that occurs in the brain. There's several times during development where we have a spring-like neural sprouting, which means all of a sudden we have brand new pathways, tons and tons of brain neurology sprouting like spring, vines growing everywhere. And first we'll have the massive growth, and then over time, the brain will prune away the networks that we're not using as much. And so this helps rewire our neural circuits so that we can think faster and more efficiently. But during this process is where we get disruptive or disoriented, impulsive, even offensive or provocative, and very emotional, which we'll talk more about. It's because during this time, their brain kind of looks like this. And when we say, where's your 4? They have to shuffle through all of this to make sense of where the 4 is. How this rolls out in life is go make your bed. And they run upstairs and they come back with some random conversation and never really got to their bed. Or this could be, I've asked you 4 times. We do the same thing every day. You brush your teeth every morning, yet they don't brush their teeth every morning. Or every Wednesday we have speech therapy at 3 o'clock. Yet at 3 o'clock, we still have to tell them it's speech therapy. It's like there is so much going on in their little brains, and it's all mixed up right now because we haven't pruned and organized it yet. So what that means is it affects them on an emotional level. So this is a time where their amygdala is growing think in terms of the limbic system being the emotional center of the brain, and your prefrontal cortex, right, which is the front, is more your critical thinking. Well, in the teen years, the critical thinking brain is like a baby size. It's a little pea. And this amygdala, which is where the emotions are, is growing, and it's huge. So that's what makes them kind of moody and unpredictable and feel these emotions that maybe they hadn't really been so connected to just a year or so ago. And what's different about the tween years is they don't yet have the language to communicate what these emotions are. They just started like 10 seconds ago. Whereas in the teen years, now they've had some practice with friends or watching parents, and they start to develop some language to express themselves differently. So you'll find tweens can often feel insecure by their emotions, and they can even either become dramatic or impulsive, loud, tantrum-like, or they can withdraw and kind of more internalize their emotion. And really, we've often thought of this as the beginning of puberty, which it does have that spirit, but it's not so much hormonal as we had always thought. There's a neurobiological piece to it that's just fascinating that we're learning about. And so this is how you can have a conversation with your tween and go through all these different emotions in like 35 seconds, right? A lot of processing going on, a lot of feelings going on, and they're not really sure what to do with them or how to communicate them. So now they have more feelings going on. And then finally, they really, because there's so much going on in them, they're thinking a lot about themselves, and they think everybody else must be focusing on them as well. They're very judgmental typically of themselves and what they're going through, and if they're okay, if they're normal, if they're like others, which again creates some of that insecure emotion that then they're not really sure how to communicate. So imagine they feel like they're under this light and everybody is looking at them. They're having a ton, they're having a ton of emotions, and it's all hard for them to communicate and organize. Now, when they get to the teen years, they'll start to organize, and because the pruning starts to happen, it'll also help them develop better communication. But until we get there, they're kind of in this highlighted, very sensitive time of development. Is this making sense for people? Are people relating to this? So, as parents, we can see a couple of things. We can see big shifts quickly. We can also see the ebb and flow. So some days our tweens seem like those little children that are just so sweet and they still grab to hold our hand. And then other days we see these almost adult-like, because they're starting to make new connections to bigger concepts, especially with the exposure of YouTube and TikTok and even some of the programming, and their peers who are also exposed to these things. So they'll have some more sophisticated concepts that they understand and conversation they'll bring, but then yet they'll go back into this childlike quality. So as parents, what we're going to focus on is how do we connect? How do we bring a gentle but firm interaction that helps calm them and teach them? So what we're going to focus on is this emotional connection we cultivate with our tweens that says, I care about you. I'm here for you. I want to know you as your person, and I will keep you safe. And I always start with the first three. It's kind of like building the foundation with tweens. If they know if my tween knows he can talk to me, I'm going to listen. I'm going to put down my phone. I'm going to make eye contact. I'm going to be with him. I'm going to be present. I'm going to kind of let him voice his thoughts. I'm not going to shut him down. I'm going to give him space to think out loud. He will more likely come to me, number one. And number two, he will also be more apt to take a boundary. One of the biggest mistakes I see parents do is they bring the hammer down first. So they set a lot of boundaries. They tell our tweens what they need to be doing and how they should be doing and what they're doing wrong, but they haven't yet cultivated that the softer side of the connection, the listening and the sitting with them and the hearing their, quite honestly, sometimes their stuff is boring. Sometimes their stuff is kind of off. Sometimes it's incorrect. Sometimes it's offensive. But if we let them talk through that and sit with them, we're building a support system for them that then next we can bring the hammer down. And I'll talk more about what these look like. So what we're trying to do here is we want them to see us as a safe person that they will then transition to teen and adulthood feeling that safety and security, that support system. So we're really building a long-term relationship. We want them to feel safe opening up to us and know that they can trust us to be there, which will also transcend into other adult relationships and romantic relationships. So if you've read any material on attachment theory, you'll know I'm kind of tapping into that direction here of when we build a secure attachment with our kids, not only do they feel they can trust us and that we'll be there for them, but that transcends into how they look for romantic adult relationships and that they're more open to relationship and love. I'm not going to get into that today, but fascinating stuff. If your attachment used to really be around, we did a lot of research. The oldest research is on adults or parents and infants, but we've really broadened that to look at attachment over the life cycle. And we want to, this is so key. This is why we want to listen to their boring stories and their kind of odd or just inappropriate stuff on some level. We want them to be able to think. This is where if we give them the answer, they will not think. We want them to think. We want them to put words to their thoughts. We want them to hear their thoughts out loud. We want them to then, and they do, they won't tell us necessarily, but they do then take away, that sounded silly. Or, no, I really believe what I just said. Or, that didn't make any sense. But we really need to give them time and space to go through that process. And if we give them the answer or fix their problem right away, we lose that one. So if there's one thing you take away today, I would say that one, because it is so key when we look at all the thoughts they're having, right, with that neural sprouting. And then when the brain prunes away some of those circuits, we want it to keep the circuit that thinks, puts words to those ideas, communicates them out loud, and then thinks about how it sounded. Huge one to take away from the tween years. And we want them to be open-minded and resilient. And when we're doing these pieces of emotional connection, we're actually encouraging them to be open to healthy risk-taking. Okay, so first we want to see them. This is kind of the how-to. This is the more tactile stuff. When they open up, we want to be there to listen. It's kind of like catching the firefly. We really, when they bring us something, we want to listen. I can't tell you how many times they're like, hang on, I'm on my phone. Hang on, I'm making dinner. Hang on, not right now. 5 minutes? Can we talk about it in 5 minutes? Right? Those are little opportunities. So if we can open up and listen to them, just open up space. Avoid the fix and the reframing it right away. But this is what I was talking about, of just letting them have space to talk. They know we're listening when we stop multitasking and we really sit and look at them. Watch your face expression. Sometimes my kids will say to me, are you frowning? What is that face expression? And I must be like one of my therapy, right? One of these. And my kids are like, what is that face, right? They're very sensitive and they pick up on face expressions, voice tone. right? They can sense agitation or anxiety or multitasking or uninterested. And then our body language. Are we on the other side of the room? Are we walking around the house and they're following us? Are they sitting and we're standing? Right? All of these things impact how they experience us listening. And then pacing conversation. I'm talking kind of fast, I can tell. It's like a lot of stuff for an hour. With our kids, if we're talking fast, they may talk fast to keep up with us, or they may shut down because the conversation's going too fast and they just are getting overwhelmed by it. So we want to kind of walk with their pace. One of the kind of tippies that parents find helpful with this is think in terms of giving yourself 10 minutes, like literally look at the clock and go, okay, my kid's sitting down, she wants some attention. All right, 10 minutes. You may last longer, but for some reason, when we give ourselves 10 minutes or 5 minutes and we know it inside, we almost can calm into the moment because we're recognizing there's an end in sight. We're not held captive. And if I have a long list of things that need to get done and I feel like a conversation has an endless timeline, that energy is going to come out into the room. And what I found is sometimes they don't need the 10 minutes. Sometimes we go over the 10 minutes and I didn't even notice because I was enjoying the conversation because the stress wasn't so forefront any longer. And then sometimes, we use the 10 minutes and then I say, hey, this is really interesting. Was this helpful? Can we come back to this later? Or I got to pivot to dinner. Can you, cut the carrots while I do this part? And they can usually pivot with us or go away, right? Fly away because they got what they needed in those moments. So see them. I keep pushing the wrong button, excuse me. Know them. Start by understanding their reality. So the seeing them is like giving them time and space, right? Kind of the nonverbal stuff. Knowing them is getting more into the listening and interpreting what they say. Right? What's their reality? What's their story? What are they saying? Ask questions out of curiosity, right? Versus judgment. Well, didn't you know that was a bad idea? Well, haven't we talked about this before? Those are questions of judgment. The questions of curiosity are more like, oh, that's interesting. I feel like we've talked about this. Have we? Or, and you got to play with what works with your kids. Tweens will smell out BS. So we have to be careful of that. It has to be authentic because they can sniff it out. And then we'll lose them. They'll fly away, right? The little light fly. Another question of curiosity might be, tell me more about that. What do you think about that? Is it this or is it that? Are you saying this? Oh, this is interesting. Right? It's kind of trying to draw them out. Open-ended questions. And then the correct me if I'm wrong questions are fantastic for tweens. If I say to my son, what was for lunch today? He'll look at me and be like, I don't know, and keep moving on to something else. If I say, so you guys had pizza today for lunch, he will let me know they did not have pizza. They had hamburgers. How dare I think they had pizza, right? They love correcting the adults. So if there's ever a time we can get to, your science test is tomorrow. No, it's not. It's my Spanish test that's tomorrow. Oh, gotcha. Right? For some reason, their brain's all on tap when it's time to correct us. But it's a great way to open conversation because now they're talking. Now they're expressing themselves. Describing mood, feelings. We really want them to start putting language to their feelings so we can help them by, I wonder if you're feeling, or do you think you were experiencing or feeling this or that? Or you talked about this another time. Was it the same feeling? Did you notice the same thing? If your kids will tolerate it, asking, oh my gosh, when I was a kid, I felt that pit in my stomach. Do you feel knots sometimes? Or do you ever feel like tension? See if you can help them name where in their body they feel, right? The emotion is activating. And then, there's some kids that want to walk away and figure it out and they'll come back calmer. And then there's other kids that really need comfort in the moment. And so it's giving them space to work in the direction that they need. So knowing which that is, and if it's they need time, maybe we circle back to them. Hey, how are you? I just want to check back in. I know you seemed a little upset. Or if they're following us around the house with their agitation, it's stopping and saying, what's going on? I can see you're really upset. Tell me about it. And again, maybe it's a 3 minutes. And I don't always tell him because then he feels like I'm like putting him on a punch clock. But I will say in my mind, like, okay, you know what? Let me clear the next 5 minutes. Let me just take this call, right? What's going on? I can see you're all revved up. So whatever the family system looks like, whether it's a married parents, divorced parents, there's step parents, there's grandparents, there's an au pair, other help that lives in the home, like whatever it is, that is a really wonderful opportunity for tweens to feel like there's something, they're part of something bigger. Imagine this kid under a spotlight and feeling so insecure, unknowing, not knowing how to communicate some of these emotions or some of these experiences they're going through, and yet having all these family members in the spotlight with them. It just creates some safety and some security and feeling known by a system that unconditionally loves them. So this is where it's just so crucial that we offer time and space for fun, laughter, and play. I mean, if there's, two things you take, it was the first one I said, and this would be the second one. Play, fun, and laughter. I mean, it really is the essence of childhood. And as they get into the tween years, their fun changes, but they still really enjoy fun. They love provocative. They love silly things. They love things that are on the cusp of being inappropriate. And you can have boundaries with how inappropriate you'll take it. But more my point is having fun as a family, or having fun as girls' time, or as guy time, or as daddy and me time. Really offering things that they enjoy. So our joy may not be the same as theirs, but jumping into their joy, which means I don't play the video games, but sometimes I'll watch him play and like listen to him tell me, this is when I start the clock, right? 10 minutes of this. Start telling me about the players and his sleeves or his shields or his arms. Like I should know this better, right? Because I'm listening. But it's something that's so exciting and fun for him. I need to be able to sit in that and like feel his joy. And when he looks at me, smile instead of go, yeah, okay. 2 minutes, buddy, 2 minutes, right? That is going to feel very different to their system, right? One is going to produce security and confidence, and the other is going to produce uncertainty. The other thing I love is family mantras and rituals. These are the things like, Nike gave us, right? Nobody doesn't know, just do it, right? That's a tagline, right? We can have family mantras or rituals. I'm going to start with mantras that it's like our little inside secret, our little joke, right? And they can be a million things, but they're these little things that just you and I know. I don't know why, which is a whole separate discussion, but in our house, for some reason, we always we buy things little, and then we always have a little left. So there's not a serving left, but yet we'll leave it in the bottle and then put it back in the fridge. So next time you come, there's not enough for a full serving. And so we call it the mouse was in the house, right? So we pick something out and it'll be a little milk. It'll be a little ketchup. It'll be a little tartar sauce. I mean, you would not believe how many times we pull out a cracker bag and there's 2 crackers, right? It's the weirdest thing. Separate issue. But the mantra in it for us is there's a mouse in the house. And we all kind of giggle because it's like, why do we do that, right? It's something we know about ourselves that keeps happening. And we don't have to name it. We don't get mad about it, even though it's like maddening because you think you have a full thing of crackers. So you go to the store, you don't buy some. You come home, you find there's 2 in there, right? The mouse was in the house. When my son was younger, we, the line stage, right? This is a great one. And I'm pushing a little to boundaries here, but one of the ones we had for boundaries, the lying stage. He went through the stage of lying and we sat down. I'm not huge into lecturing, but I like one lecture where we sit down and talk about, you know, when you lie, then I don't know when you're telling me the truth and when it's real or when it's false. And so then I start questioning everything. And so really the lying changes everything. And so later, right, after we've had that conversation, and I'm wondering, like, is that true or false? It's like, is that true or false? Because lying changes everything. And he knows from our conversation, oh yeah, I know what you're saying. Because I've lied before, now you're not really sure when I'm lying or telling the truth. Like he can start to make that connection because we've had that long conversation and we have our little tagline that goes with it. So you see some of these can be boundary related and some of them can just be fun and in play. Rituals has the same spirit of kind of inside jokes or something between you and me, or that isn't necessarily a phrase or a tagline, but more things we do, right? So it could be things like Sunday church, Saturday morning breakfast at the dining room table, dinners at I'm huge into dining room tables. If you've ever had a conversation with me about this, you've heard me say that because that's a time we can all kind of connect and it's like, how was your day? What do you think? Couple laughs. But other rituals that are more unique to our family, right? Do we have prayer times or do we have before bedtime or do we have time where we sit and chat? My Darman fam, has anybody watched his videos? He's kind of fun and maybe worth checking out with your tween. We sit down a lot before bed and one of our rituals and watch the Darman fam one video. And they're usually about 4 minutes each and they've got some inspirational message. And then we'll, you know, kind of chit chat about it. So, you know, maybe I like that one because it's a little more pro-social than just, yeah, let's do 5 minutes of YouTube. Because that'll get into silliness or things that aren't even interesting. So those are some of the rituals, you know, just time. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. It could be even like we brush our teeth together, right? That's a great way to get a tween to brush their teeth. And quite honestly, I'm trying to get in bed the same time he is. So it kind of makes sense that we're brushing our teeth around the same time. Okay, so being there, co-parenting together, that's another big one. And this is like a talk all in and of itself. And this is where I love the couples and the family work because this is huge. We, you know, parents, how do we communicate? What do we value? Right? How do we support each other? Like all of that is its own session. But the point here is when we co-parent together and they know, they see us, right? We model, they see us in connection. That's going to warm their heart. And again, they're going to feel part of something bigger. And then with that, we're modeling emotional awareness, regulation, and expression. How we express ourselves, they are taking notes. You might not think it, but they are taking notes. And so I don't know if you've noticed the sentiment here has been like, look at them, see them, listen to them, give them time, be patient, pace the conversation, hear them, smile, right? It's all about that. This is where like we get to take our parenting back. This is where people like to come in because this is bringing down the hammer. Absolutely, they need rules. I always have parents that, so there's no rules. I'm just supposed to like let them run that. No. They don't run the house. This is where we have rules. And I say a couple rules, mostly because I can't parent 8 rules. I personally will not be consistent and will not follow through. If you're good at that, fantastic. Work within your ability, right? I pick a couple rules. And I mean couple too. 2 rules I implement, and I focus on consistently following through with that rule. And I'll take weeks to do it until it's really becoming something that the brain is picking up on and remembering. So when things get pruned away, that will not be one of them. Right? That's something I want them to keep. So if I'm reiterating, did you go, you went upstairs to make your bed, did you make it? No. Could you go do that then? Just go do it, just real fast. Right? Sometimes I'll time you. It doesn't work at tweens anymore. Remember when they were little kids, you'd be like, hey, I'll time you. And they're like, oh yeah, all right. Yeah, that doesn't work as much usually. Trying to find the upgrade to that one because that was so nice when they were younger. So we want to have boundaries, consistency, and follow through. So pick boundaries you will be consistent with and follow through. Okay, number 1. Number 2, it's super okay to say no. We got to say no. We really don't want our tweens to be happy all the time. I hear that a lot. Parents saying, I just want my tween to be happy. You actually don't. Because if they're happy all the time, they're not learning discipline, delayed gratification, patience, boredom. Like they have to like experience that stuff to know it. And so we do have to say no. And they may throw a big tantrum or they may give us a silent treatment. You know, those are kind of the 2 typical steps they'll take. And that's where we take a deep breath and we really like hunker into it and hold our ground. And hopefully we have a partner that's willing to back us up and say, hey, you heard your mom. Now go sit down or go find something else. Or, you know what, dad said, and I agree. When they know that there's 2 big adults with the same agenda, odds are usually they back down and they go take care of themselves or they self-soothe or they kind of move on because they know that's a bigger mountain to climb than if they know they can get around mom's rule by going to dad. That's where this age is brilliant for triangulation, that's called, right? They know who they can get what from. That's why it's so crucial that we're on the same page. So if we're implementing a rule, we really have to have the conversation with our partner first, or even their co-parent. The more we can have similar homes, the more our kids are going, the easier this transition from house to house is going to be. And then the more the kids are going to pick up on discipline and structure that they'll take with them over time, right? You'll see when 2 homes have a lot of different rules. And like, I get it. You couldn't get them to do it when you were married. There's no way you're going to get them to do it in a divorce. So like, there's that problem. But when the houses do have some similarities, it's really great for the kids to have that consistency, right? That follow through. It teaches the brain. I always go back to that. It teaches the brain, oh, this is important. Let's keep this and not prune it away. Okay. So say no. Next, let them fail, error, fall, and make mistakes. Especially now, this is such an opportune time. 12th grade, 11th grade, when they're filling out college application, not the time, right? We hope that they have felt some failure and fell off some bikes of life before they get to high school. This is a perfect time. Let that teacher have that conversation. Let that kid experience a bad grade on a test. You know, let that kid feel what it's like to not know the information. And then we can work with them on that. We can do these other things. Sit down. Wow, tell me. Oh, that's interesting. I had no idea. Tell me more. Right? See them and understand their perspective on why they didn't do well on that test and how their peers interpreted it. I picked up another tween for football, and they get in the car, and the first thing the one said, what'd you get on the test? Oh, right? They know. My son comes home, he's like, and the lowest grade was this, and the highest grade was that. It's like, how do you know that? They know all of that stuff. Funny, their brains are so like all over the place, but they know everybody else's business. And so this is a great opportunity for them to fail, make a mistake. Their peers are going to notice. That's going to give them feedback. We can have some conversation of curiosity with them. and get them to remember my original point. Think, right? Put words to their thoughts, communicate it out loud, and then hear themselves think it out loud. Great skill set. And they will, like, they may not tell you, but they do hear them. Yeah, I know that wasn't my teacher's fault. She gave me everything I needed. I just didn't study. They might not say that out loud, but they hear themselves when they go, yeah, and she didn't even, and she wasn't, and they didn't. Oh, she didn't. She didn't give you any study guide. No, not really. Kid's like, yeah, I know I got that study guide. I just didn't do it. Right. So again, letting them make mistakes gives them a thinking process we want them to work through. See how different that is than if we just say, well, you got to do better. Well, you need to take that to your tutor. Well, you should know this stuff. I mean, you know, we even practiced it. What happened? Right? We're not letting them think through. I'm huge into that one. I could just park on that. Okay. And then encouraging them to take healthy risks. This is super tough. I'll say, like, slice it thin, because tweens do tend to be a pretty insecure stage of development. But we do want them to start taking some risks. And when I say slice it thin, to me, a risk might be, oh, I say this one a lot. Oh, our kids nice to him or her? Or my son will say, yeah, and he got a 64 on a test. Oh, I go, now are the kids nice, or do the kids tease him? Could you let him know, like, you know, you've had some tough grades too, and it gets better? Like, can you encourage him to keep trying? My son's like, no, I'm not doing that. Well, I'm planting a seed, right? But slice it thinner, right? Telling a kid to stand up to bullies, I think, is super important, to plant that seed. They may or may not do it. The slicing it thinner is easier tasks. What other healthy risks? And if your kid is a wizard in math, it might be, this is where knowing your kid uniquely, right? It might be, I don't know what they do in math. Let's take music, right? In music, there's like, you can do these things, but then if you're really into it, you can up the ante and you can put yourself out there. You can sign up for like this other orchestra thing. You can sign up for, you know, time with the teacher. There's a good one. Reach out to the teacher in math and ask where you were confused, right? These are kind of slicing it thinner, where they may not be able to call out that peer on bad behavior, but they may be able to ask a teacher for something they really enjoy, or they really want, or they're really motivated for, right? If, you know, and sometimes they're taking the healthy risks on their own. If they love, if there's anything football, I can sign my kid up, he'll go to all of it, right? He'll walk into a room of 50 boys if football is the name of the game. Right? That's a healthy risk. It's like, good, go burn energy for 2 hours and get off that screen. So healthy risks, you know, food, cooking, you know, they can work an oven now. I wouldn't do it unsupervised or when you're not home, but they definitely can start working knives and ovens. And so taking risks to let them come up with food. Again, because of YouTube and all this, they're learning about things that they can eat. Yeah, we've had some bombs. We've used a lot of resources, a lot of food items that didn't work out, didn't pan out. And I'm like, oh, that was a lot of money. But they did learn something in the process. They didn't keep doing it, right? They learned something in that process. So again, a healthy risk, right? Rather than me saying, no, you can't do that, you don't know, that doesn't make any sense. Well, you don't put those items together. You need a recipe. You need to know, you know, the different sizes of everything. Sometimes we just let them take those risks. Okay, so here are some of my favorite books. I love The Power of Showing Up. Anything Dan Siegel, he writes The Whole Brain Child down here too. He's got a whole bunch of books, amazing stuff. It can be a little dense, but he does a lot in neuroscience. And so he's really talking about how the brain is impacted by emotion and behavior and developmental stages. Fantastic book this one is, and actually very readable. Brain-based parenting, on the other hand, is also around the neuroscience, and I talked earlier about attachment. This one talks a lot about attachment. Daniel Hughes is fantastic. He has some other books out there as well. This one is dense. This one's a tough read, I think, but the material is amazing. And it even gets into why we parent the way we parent and some of the obstacles or some of the problems we run into just as our own personal beings. So fantastic. Henry Cloud and John Townsend write a bunch of books together. They do tend to have a Christian flair to them. So if you like that genre, parenting that has more of a Christian vibe, they've got a ton of great stuff. And they also write some separate from each other. I love this title, How to Hug a Porcupine. I love the title. But the book has a lot of like tips, tricks, resources. It's pretty dense tips. So if you are really like grappling with how to do some of the details of this stuff, that's a good book. And my caution is, don't try to implement the entire book. Like, be gentle with yourself. Take pieces, right? Take for a week a piece or two and implement and play with that and see how it fits for you authentically. See how your kid reacts to it. You know, tweak it a little bit. But that's a great book for some of that kind of tangible, concrete stuff. One of my favorites, Leonard Sachs, The Collapse of Parenting. He also writes Boys Adrift and a girl one, which I forget the name of. My girl's so little, I haven't read it yet. But fantastic books. And really has like a societal perspective. So he gets more into some of the generational changes and the societal changes, which is fascinating. And then Playful Parenting, they get into, and he has some other books too. I like his stuff, Lawrence Cohen. He gets into more like, how do we have fun? How do we like put the work away sometimes or the pressures and just have a little fun and joy and keep it light and turn it down a notch. And so he has some great ideas with that. So with that, let's talk. Who has some thoughts or questions? We have about 10 minutes. We can do some questions. Or I can just keep babbling.
Amanda, thank you. I have a question here in the chat that maybe you can touch on. In terms of gender differences and puberty during tweens, boys and girls, are there any tips that you can give our parents on how to handle our tweens during that time?
So it's interesting. We always hear girls reach puberty earlier, right? There's some research that says they also get this narrow sprouting and start some of this sooner as well, which is where they might come up with maturity earlier, right? Because their brain starts to prune back some of the unnecessary, and the brain becomes more efficient earlier than the boy's brain, which maybe isn't a surprise. So that's one thing. So you may see this starting earlier for your girls than your boys, or it may look more emotional, not necessarily, but you often think of girls as having more of an emotional quality to them, whereas boys tend to internalize it more, right? And from a societal perspective, doesn't that make sense? Boys are covertly and overtly taught to kind of stuff their feelings, behave, do well, you're okay, stop it, go away, go outside, no, anger's no good, right? We don't want the anger, but we don't really give boys a way to express themselves. Usually with the girls, we're more apt to kind of give them hugs or respond to the tears over anger, right? If somebody's angry, it's harder to like lean into that. Oh, tell me, right? We're more like, get out of here with that. Whereas with tears or sadness, we might be more apt to go, oh my gosh, what happened? Are you okay? And the other thing I'll say about gender is when girls start to shift into puberty and into these emotional and physical changes, often, and there's been some stuff written on this, and I hear it in my office, dads will start to kind of back up. They know what to do with the little girl that needs help lifting that thing or riding her bike or throwing the ball or giggling, and playing tag as elementary kids. Dads tend to get a little unsure what to do with an emotional, physically growing girl. And this is when girls really need dads to stick around and stay close. So dads have to figure out, like, maybe I have a dad that they go to Starbucks, which is so interesting as tweens, right? Or those pliables, right? That's another kind of hit thing with the tweens. Or maybe it is shopping, right? Or going to the mall. Like, these are things where they're kind of outside dad's comfort zone, but they speak volumes to girls. And again, while mom is listening to the video game or the other talk, the boy talk, the dads are listening to girl talk. So it might be my girl tweens tend to do more Pinterest and, like, look at this outfit, and here's how I want to decorate my room, and fabrics and fashions, and right. So dad's kind of leaning in and getting more curious about that stuff. But it is so important. And we as moms, I see a lot of ladies' names, but as moms, we can encourage and promote dad to still stay involved and to find the new normal for that relationship with their little tween girls.
Great, thank you. While we're on the topic of girls, we have a question here that it seems like girls have new best friends every day and they hurt each other's feelings. How do we support them through their friendship journey?
Yeah, this is a really tough one because the Mean Girls is like hot in middle school. And here again, if we're talking about an 11th grade mean girl, I have a different perspective on that than the 6th, 7th grade mean girl. The middle school mean girls, and again, we're 9 to 12 here, right? So we're the late elementary, early middle school. Going back to the brain sprouting, what they know is people are looking at them, they compare to others, there's a peer group, and they want to see how they fit in. And what they'll kind of do is push others out of the way to take a look in the window. At this age, they don't mean to be mean, but they're so trying to get to that window to see what it's like on the other side that they can be really, really mean. And so, so our teens, on either side of the window, the one that's being mean or the one that is watching a friend be mean, or the one that is oblivious to the whole thing and is the girl they're trying to see in the window. We can start having the conversations around what the concept of mean girl is, what empathy is, what compassion is. And again, we're not lecturing this, but we're weaving it into the conversation with curious questions. Do you ever see Mean Girls? Oh my gosh, did you watch that commercial? Do you ever see that in school? Oh, tell me more about that. And then she said, what? And then what did the other girls do? Oh my gosh. Now, were you embarrassed or just like sad, or was it like humiliated? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can imagine how hurtful that was. What did you say? Where do you think you want to take it next? I'm really sorry you went through that. I know that's really tough. Right? Again, you play with your daughters, and two things, right? What's authentic to you and what's going to resonate for your daughter, because they sniff out BS. But we want to talk with them. We want to hear their thoughts. We want to sit with them while they cry or feel bad or angry and kind of name it. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Reassure them. They make sense. And then look for ways they might solve their problem. What do you want to do? What have you seen other kids do? What hasn't worked? You know, slice it thin. She's probably not going to go up to the kid and say, you're not very nice. I think you need to think about how you talk to others because it's hurting people's feelings and that's going to hurt them long. Like, she's probably not going to go there, but what is she willing to say or do? You know, sometimes kids won't go talk to the bully, but they will say to their friend, hey, I saw that. I'm really sorry. Are you okay? If they're leaving a friend, right, because they're trying to get to the window, you know, you can name that with them. Wow, I noticed you haven't been spending any time with Megan lately. How has it been? Does she know why? Do you think it hurts her feelings? Have you said anything to her? Right? Again, we're trying to get curious and get them to think, right? Process, put words to it, name it out loud.
Great, thank you. We have about 4 minutes. So one last quick question. What about the teen that is in their room all the time on their phone? How do you draw them out?
Yeah, these are good questions. They're all like their own session, aren't they? But for under 4 minutes, you know, tweens will have emotion and either fill the house with them and invade and like keep everyone hostage to their emotion, or they'll be quiet, right? I think of the dog and the cat, right? It's like the dog is always right there, waiting and willing to have someone talk to them and be with them. The cat is going to be somewhere, and if you chase them, you will never catch them. So the kid in the room is kind of like the cat, right? We have to figure out how to lure the cat in without them think we're chasing them, because then they'll run away and then they're on to us, right? You can't get the same trick wrong twice with a cat. They're on to you. So, and again, you have to play with what is unique to your child. Some kids will let you come in and watch video games with them, and they'll teach you about the video games, and they'll let you hang in there, not clean their room, sit on their bed and hang. And that could be a time you could say, hey, I only have 2 minutes, but I wanted to come in. Oh, cool. What game is this? Oh, you're on your phone. Are you FaceTiming? Are you YouTubing? What are you doing on your phone? Oh, yeah, okay, you don't have to tell me. Oh, is that a new poster? That's pretty. Right? We're just trying to engage. And this is under the umbrella of I want to know you, I want to see you. Right? In the spirit of you're part of something bigger, right? Here's the lure out. We put a little dish of cat food and we hope they'll come. Right? I will demand if I have to, but I first want to start with things that are fun to them that would lure them out. Hey, we're thinking about going to the pliable place. Will you come? No, but will you get me one? No, but if you come, I'll get you one. But you got to come. It'll be fun. Come on. Right? Do I want a pliable? No, I don't. But if I'm going to lure that cat, I gotta lure that cat how the cat will come out. Right? And then again, it's not peppering a million questions, but it's this dance of how are you? Maybe I share about me. Maybe I've got a funny story. Maybe I can share a dar man, right? I got to get something that's intriguing. What's their topics of interest, right? I can talk about football, TikTok. I can talk about some of the video games. And I can talk about school. Like those are my big topics. If I go there, I can get some feedback. We got to find like, where's the feedback? Where can I get some interaction? This might also be a good one where you say, correct me if I'm wrong questions, right? That might get their interest. And then again, you don't want to pounce them, right? If you jump for them, the cat runs away. So you want to have them come, right? Engage. And then say, well, I loved this. Thank you so much. I'll go now. Right? So we leave them feeling seen and respected and loved and cared for, but not pushed. Right? Not like we had agenda. Because again, they'll smell it out every time. So it's a dance. Now we're dancing. Okay, that takes us to 10:30. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you being here. I know this morning was a tough start on top of Monday, on top of Super Bowl. So I really appreciate you all being here.
Thank you, Amanda, for being here. And yes, we appreciate you being here this morning with the delay. And thank you all for joining us.